but there are very few with roots here as strong as Don Dudley's. Born to parents of Slovenian and Norwegian heritage, he was welcomed into an old world, Bojan's cultural heritage underpinned by values of hard work, thriftiness, the joys of diving deep into your interests, and most of all, family. Don accompanied his dad downtown on his errands every Saturday morning. His Uncle Teeny took him to dozens of Pueblo Dodger and Bruins games at Running Field. The absolute highlight of his childhood, however, was the day his mother brought his infant brother, David, home from St. Mary Hospital. He and his brother, 5.5 years younger, were inseparable. So much so that sometimes David shows up in some of Don's formal class pictures. So he stays in there, get into the picture. Don had many varied interests as a kid, such as hurling rocks at metal gas station signs, riding his new Hawthorne bike up and down every single alley, even the ambulance tunnel at St. Mary's, winning marble tournaments, but it was his dad who sowed the seeds of Don's lifelong interests, mathematics and baseball. Don listened to and watched countless games with his dad, Leon Dudley. Though blind from birth, Leon followed every play and was aware of everything that happened on the field in each game. Baseball was something important that Don and his dad could share. They talked about the teams, the players, their statistics, their backgrounds, and their future. And they pored over the newspapers. Don and his friends played and talked baseball all day long. He and his buddy joined old-timers baseball at age 7, ignoring the age limit of 9. Don belted a grand slam that inspired the memorable telegram from his dad's St. Louis brother, Virgil. Congrats on grand slam. Hope Cards can compete with Dodgers for future services. The following year, Don pitched 4 no-hitters, including a 4-inning perfect game where the first and the 4th innings were immaculate. The highlight of his playing career came in his next to last year of old-timers. He was the shortstop on the City Park GER racing team that won the city championship. First, they upset Bessemer Park's Pueblo Police Union in their hugely upscale uniforms, sending the Bessemer coach, Sam Pagano, into center field after the game to contemplate how such a result could possibly have happened. Then City Park defeated Grizzly Field's Tranny Furniture for the title. They were growing up in the midst of the golden era of baseball trading cards. Don amassed a prodigious collection. How do you fuel baseball card collecting when you're 8 years old? Well, you care for the neighbor's lawn, you get a paper route, and then you get another paper route, and another paper route, and another paper route. The rest is history. Don played infield on a Central High team, and later in American Legion and semi-pro for Jones Mortuary, where he initiated a triple play from third base in the championship game in the Antonio Labor Day tournament. He also coached the Westboro MA American Legion team for 2 years. Don's academic work was in electrical engineering, first with the Bachelor of Science from the University of Colorado Boulder, and then graduate work at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He specialized in continuum electromechanics. His professional career has been in software development as well as corporate management. His is United Health Group Optum, where he's a senior information security engineer on the audit support operations team within Enterprise Information Security. Don's lifelong love is all things baseball, especially baseball history, the players, the development of the leagues, the formation and movement of the teams, the personalities and the superstars, the underdogs and the plotters, the great plays and the really tough breaks. He has followed baseball in this detail his whole life. Don has 2 grown daughters and 4 grandchildren who have all inherited his love of baseball. 2 baseball-appreciating sons-in-law, and a life partner, or honey, who is also a fan, but unfortunately couldn't make it this evening. Even though he lives in Massachusetts, his heart pulls him back to Pueblo several times a year to stay in touch with family and friends and to keep his roots strong. He's attended every Colorado Rockies home opener from their 1993 inception until the pandemic, and has now returned to that tradition. With his strong roots in Pueblo, his pride and love for this city and its people, and his passion for baseball, we are certain he'll have some really interesting things to share with us tonight. Please let me welcome Don.
So you probably recognize this. Darling Dave Dudley. So it's hard to know exactly what your audience is going to be in an affair like this, and how to cater to most everyone. Of course, I'm pinch hitting for my brother tonight. He's the actual speaker. I encourage you to ask questions, and you'll feel the tough ones. But he certainly had comments as well during the presentation. Welcome, and he probably had plenty to offer. In our family, there's a famous line that my older daughter uttered about 20 years ago. She brought her boyfriend to meet me for the first time. They were math teachers at Framingham, Massachusetts High School. He grew up on Long Island. Don Mattingly was his favorite player. And he was a Yankee fan. We won't hold that against him. He wanted to see some of my baseball cards, so I gave him a real quick overview, and I pulled out the Connie Mack All-Star set, which is the 1951 set of 11 cards that basically consists of the best players ever in specific positions. And Connie Mack was the manager. He's wearing a business suit. And the kid is named Matt Coleman, a great kid. And he wore a business suit into the dugout? Yes, ma'am. He owned the team for 50 years and he managed them. He was a businessman. And he said to me, no. And it wasn't like he was disputing me. It was like, this is a revelation. I never would have known this. But my daughter immediately said, Coleman, my dad doesn't say things that aren't true. So I'm going to try to hold that to that tonight and say things that aren't true. I'm going to say a lot of things that I'm hoping that none of them are true. So there was a request to talk about, I guess, the Pueblo Dodgers, and ideas, players, and personalities. And you know, as I was going through this again, that feeling was heavily reinforced for me. There was a history before this golden era, started back in 1885, and continued. In 1911, there was a guy named Red Faber who fished for the Pueblo Indians. In my mind, he's the greatest player that ever played for a Pueblo team. He played eventually for the Chicago White Sox for 20 years. He had just developed his spitball when he came to Pueblo, and he really perfected it, and then a couple years later he was in the major leagues. In 1917, he won 3 games in the World Series against the New York Giants. And in 1919, I'm sure you know, the Chicago White Sox were involved in the Black Sox scandal in the World Series against Cincinnati. Coincidentally, he was quite sick and did not play. He was around, but he didn't play, so he did not get involved with that at all. And so he kept pitching for another 13 years. It actually did have a very negative effect on him because the team was essentially decimated. They had the best players, including Shoeless Joe, got banished for life. He ended up with 245 career wins. A lot of people think he was a shoo-in to get 300 victories, and he had the Black Sox scandal on that, and the team continued at full strength. So there was a Western League, a couple of instances, 1910 and 1900 to 1911, and again another 14-year period until World War II broke out. And Pueblo had several injuries in that. That last year, right before the war, they finished 4th in the league, and they got a playoff against Norfolk, and it was the best of 7. Went back to Norfolk, and it was flooded, the field didn't drain, and they had to end by September 15th or something like that, so they ended up winning 3 games to 2 sort of by default. There's a couple of key players on the team. Harold Steele had a tremendous year, had 383, 150 against. Here's a 33 galley card of Red Faber. He had cards in the teams too, but I particularly like this 33 galley set. It was the first set printed after a long hiatus. This Galley Gun Company is in Boston, and they printed a spectacular set of 240 cards.
What year, Don, was that? Did they print those up?
1933.
Whoa.
You know, after, so we had Cracker Jack cards in 1914 and 1915.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there's a few cards in between there. There's a Canadian chocolate company called Wilson Chocolates that printed some cards, you know, in 1922. But there was a long period of time when they printed cards. And the great thing about this is they printed cards for people that long since been retired, not only current players, since no cards have been printed in a long time. So that's the card that I chose to display here. A lot of cases, I'm going to show you a lot of different cards. I love the baseball cards. Some of these cards that I'm displaying are my actual cards. Most of them come from a PSA website, and coincidentally, PSA is displaying several of my cards when we get to my wheelhouse, which is 1949 to 1952. So then we come to the golden era, when the Western League was reincarnated, mostly on the strength of 2 Colorados, Edwin C. Johnson, who was a senator, Democratic senator from Colorado, and O'Neill Hobbs, who was a Pueblo newspaper man, and he and his wife Vera worked tirelessly to get what was called County Park in shape to open the Western League in 1947. Initially, he was the general manager of the Pueblo Dodgers, starting in 47, and eventually after that he became the president for the last 3 years, 56 and 58. It started with 6 teams in 1947, and I decided to look up the population of those 6 cities. There's three state capitals there, Denver, Des Moines, and Lincoln. And then you've got Omaha, which is a good-sized town. Sioux City, which was bigger than Pueblo at the time, and Pueblo City. And last place was 63,685 people. But there was quite a bit of interest in baseball at the time. It kind of died out, but that was league-wide, not just in Pueblo. In 1950, the league expanded to 8 teams with the Cards Springs Sky Sox. And again, that was smaller than Pueblo, if you remember. We were number 2 for a long time in the state. Now we're like number 10, I think. The Wichita Indians, good size, the St. Louis Browns franchise. In 1955, the Denver Bears and the Omaha Cardinals went AAA in the American Association, so the league shrunk back down to 6 teams. And then the very next year, went back up to 8. And 3 teams joined: Albuquerque, Amarillo, Topeka, and Wichita folded. So that's kind of a quick overview of the size of the league. And here's the 2 key guys. There's Senator Johnson here on the left. And this is O'Neill Hobbs with Babe Ruth. He was pretty well acquainted with Babe, and Babe came to visit here several times. O'Neill's wife cooked a seafood dish that the Babe enjoyed immensely. He played in the Barnstone game here in 1938, which I think is when County Park became official for the first time. So long after the Western League folded in 1958, there was another attempt at a minor league team in an independent league, and it did not fare very well. Well, you probably know a lot more about that than I do. It lasted 50 games, and the attendance was 459 a game. So Pueblo and Laredo both folded. A couple of players on that team did get a cup of coffee in the buildings. So now let's get to the golden era. The first year was 47, and they attracted Walter Austin to manage the Pueblo Dodgers. In 1946, he managed the Class B Dodger team in Nashville, New Hampshire, in the New England League. And who do you think was on that team? Boyd Campanella, Don Newcomb. So Austin was actually on the roster as a player. He did not play at all that year. He played some in Nashville. And he's famous for having one appearance in a major league game when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he struck out. So he became the Brooklyn manager in 1954, and in his second year, the Dodgers won their first and only World Series title. And, you know, he won the hearts of Brooklyn there forever after that. He actually went on to win 3 more World Series titles, which is a lot. That places him behind just Joe McCarthy, Casey Stengel, who had 7 each, and Connie Mack, who remember managed 50 years, had 5 World Series titles. So Austin managed for 23 years. He had a 1-year contract every year, and he was sitting a cup of coffee. It's just a strikeout back in the 30s. The team finished 3rd or 6th, and I put the attendance there, 1,243 a game. The league average was almost 3 times that much. Pueblo beat Sioux City in what they called the Governor's Cup at that time, 4 games to 1. And I list some of their star players. Preston Ward had a tremendous year. Larry Shepard, who went on to a fine managerial career with the Pirates, and Dirk Baum was 13-7. Art Schalick had a 13-8 record. He is currently the major leaguer, the oldest major leaguer living. He's over 100 years old. He turned 100 on April 25th. And he had a decent year before he's up. A couple other guys in the league that did pretty well: Eddie Kazak, Roy Smalley, Johnny Clipstein. Some of these names are familiar. You see the faces maybe a little bit. This is Turk Baum's 1952 card. He's shown in a Chicago Cubs uniform. The Dodgers had a pretty well-stocked staff of pitchers after the 1950 season. They had Joe Black, they had Don Newcomb, Preacher Rowe, and they did not protect Turf Brown, and the Cubs signed him. And in late September, at a game at Wrigley Field, he beat Roy Campanella. Of course, no batting helmets in those days. And I mean, Loud could throw. He threw the ball very hard. And blood was pouring out of Campanella's ear. Ralph Branca took him to a Chicago hospital. He missed 4 games. He was the MVP that year, if you recall. So, in losing 4 games probably had some effect. Of course, it ended up in a flat-footed tie, and we had the 3-game playoff that ended up in the tragedy of the Wayne. Howie Thompson's home run. In those days, you typically retaliated when somebody hit one of your players, but Charlie Gresson was convinced that it was not intentional. The beating of Roy Campanella was not intentional. Loud was a fairly wild pitcher. He kind of started to get his control in shape when he was here in Pueblo, and it got quite a bit better, but not surprisingly, the ball got away from him from time to time. Eddie Kazak, he had a good season there. This guy actually was the last card that I got in my sets for 49 and 52. He was the toughest one for me to get. And he showed up on the league list there, so I thought, this is actually my card. It's on the PSA website, and this is actually my card too. It's a first time card. As is the Preston Ward card on the previous slide. Chuck Tanner had a long career, including a managerial career. Then on to 1948. Pueblo did not make the playoffs that year, had a new manager. Walter also went on to AA. Finished a little bit below 500, 5th of 6. He had finished in the top 4 to get in the playoffs. The attendance went up to 1,600. The league average went up quite a bit. And Turf Mountain really improved. He had the highest percentage in the league, 17 and 6. There was a little kid in Lincoln by the name of Bobby Shantz, and I say little. He was all of 5'6", under 140 pounds. My dad adored this guy. He would always say that pound for pound, he threw harder than anybody. He ended up having a spectacular career. He was the 1952 American League MVP, breaking up Yogi Berra's streak. He won 8 Gold Gloves. He had a pretty spectacular career. Casey Stengel eventually got him on his team, so he really was good. Nellie Fox also played for Lincoln. He ended up in the Hall of Fame. He was the 1959 American League MVP from the Go-Go White Sox, won the American League pennant, and scared the Dodgers a little bit. Clemowine was on that team. He was 13 and 10, and he became one of the premier relievers in the National League. He had 2 really important starts in his career. One was Game 2 of the aforementioned 3-game playoff against the Giants in 1951. He beat them 10-0, and then they also started Game 6 of the 1956 World Series. Right after John Marshall pitched his perfect game, the Yankees are up 3-2. They come back to Portland for 2 games. He won the game 1-0 in 10 innings. He grew up right near where I live in Massachusetts, and I have a guy who swears that his name is pronounced Labine. I tell you, probably the French pronunciation. This guy actually dated Clem's niece, and he's a pretty big baseball fan, but I've told him I never ever in my life heard anybody pronounce his name Labine. There's his first card, 1952 Topps. This is Nellie Fox's rookie card, and that's Bobby Shantz's rookie card. I just got that in the last year and a half or so. 1949 was another big banner year. The attendance up again, almost 2,000 a game here in Pueblo. And Pueblo beat the Des Moines Bruins for the championship 4-3. Joe Torpy batted .294, played second base on that team. My brother and I went to visit the other day at the Regency and got him to recall a lot of that era. He was from Brooklyn initially, and a couple of times in spring training he got to go back and meet other Dodgers, including some of the major leaguers like Jackie Robinson. Jimmy Williams was on that team. My dad always talked about him. He played shortstop, led the league in runs scored with 126. Victor Marasco led the league in batting average and RBIs. Marion Furcano was 10-2 on the mound, and Ken Lehman led the league in strikeouts with 203. Chuck Tanner again had a good year with the Denver Bears. And there's a couple of pitchers there at the bottom that had good years too. I tried to put years on the line by themselves and then the batters next. So now, here's the two people that I showed. The card on the right is a 55 Bowman. I love that set. I never get a chance to show cards from that set. I showed that set at the TV outline. So, 1950, the tennis dropped way down to 1171. No wonder the team was finished 8 out of 8. The Sioux City Sioux, who were a New York Giants farm team, beat the Wichita Indians in the championship, 3-1. There were some noteworthy players in the league. Gene Baker, who went on to play with the Cubs, it was Ernie Banks' double-play partner. Wally Moon was the 1954 National League Rookie of the Year, and of course had a good stint with the Dodgers in their LA Coliseum years. He developed an inside-out swing that allowed him to plant what they call moonshots over that screen. Dusty Rhodes played for Des Moines, and he's famous for the 2 pinch-hit home runs that he got in the 1954 World Series. And that's Bobby's big brother, Billy Shantz, quite a bit bigger than Bobby. And he played with Lincoln. 2 very interesting pitchers on the bottom line. Bob Turley and Don Larson both played with Wichita. Eventually, they came to the Yankees in the same trade. After the 1954 season, there was an 18-player trade. And Don Larson was 3-21 in 1954 for the Baltimore Orioles. Won 3 games and lost 21 games. Al Jackson always says, you got to be a pretty good pitcher to lose 20 games. They keep trotting you out there even though you lose. But 2 of his 3 victories were against the Yankees. And Casey insisted that he be part of the trade. And, we know what happened there. Bob Turley eventually became the 1958 Cy Young Award winner, which that year there was only one Cy Young Award winner for all Major League Baseball, and he was the World Series MVP as well. Don Larson started the 1955 season in Denver. He was 9-1. He batted .326. He had 6 home runs and 14 runs batted in. So he was doing both ends. They called him up, and he was 9-2 with the Yankees. So all told that year, I think it was 18-3. And his big time came up in 1956. So there's Gene Baker with the infamous Band-Aid over his eye. Wally Moon with the Cardinals. Dusty Rhodes, these are 1955 tops on the right. Of course, Dusty Rhodes was anointed with card number 1 due to his World Series exploits. And there's a beautiful card of Bobby and Billy Shantz, both on the same card in the Bowman, 1955 Bowman. There's Bob Turley's 1955 card, and then there's Don Larson's first card, which is also the 55 Bowman. 1951. The manager is a guy named Jim Biffen, who's son is back in the corner here today. They didn't have a particularly good year. They were 6 out of 8. They had a couple of pretty good players. George Freeze had a pretty decent major league career. Roy Face was 23-9 for the Pueblo Dodgers that year. 23-9. And he eventually had an 18-1 year in 1959 with the Pirates, all in relief. We won 17 games in a row in relief. And here again are some players who did well, first batters and then pitchers. And so this first picture is an interesting one. A friend of my brother sent it to him, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, and he asked me to identify these people. Well, there's 2 dead giveaways. This picture was taken at a Memphis hotel in 1953. So that's Willie Mays, of course, on the left. On the right is Hank Thompson, who was the second, he was the first African American to play for the New York Giants. And he was also the first African American to play for an American team. So he's the only person that rode the color barrier with 2 different teams. The guy in the center is Lou Chiozo. And in Babe Ruth's last game, May 30th, 1935, Babe Ruth was playing left field. 4 days earlier, he had hit 3 home runs in Forbes Field against the Pirates. Those were the last home runs of his career. Then they went to Cincinnati, and he was having trouble fielding his position in left field. And Cincinnati tried to take advantage of that by hitting every ball in left field. He ended up pulling a muscle in left field. So, in the top of the first, this game is at the Baker Bowl in Philadelphia. Jim Biffen retired Babe Ruth on a ground out to Dolph Camilli at first base. Little did we know that was going to be his last at-bat in the major leagues. At the bottom of the first, with the bases loaded and 2 outs, this man in the middle, Lucios, with a fly ball down the left field line. It got past Babe Ruth, went to the wall. Bases were loaded, 3 runs scored, and he came around, and the umpires called him out of home. There's a lot of people think he was actually safe, but they didn't want to make Barry look worse than he already looked. But they called him out. Barry did not even go to the dugout. He just walked straight through the club, through the center field fence into the clubhouse, and hung it up. That was it. That was the end of it. So, that was the end of Babe Ruth's career. So Jim Biffen threw the pitch, and his last pitch, and then Lucioso really put him out of the game with the bases loaded trouble. There's Gene Freeze and Glenn Gorgas. Both had decent careers. There's Roy Face in a pirate uniform. That's Joe Torre's brother, who died of cancer at a fairly young age. He was a decent first baseman with the Braves. And here's Ken Boyer, who was the 1964 MVP and had a pretty great career. I think he's the only guy that had his number retired who's not for the Cardinals, who's not in the Hall of Fame. And I remember Single and I getting a kick out of their announcer, Harry Carey, would always talk about Boyer would be next. If this guy gets on, Boyer would be next. I guarantee he would take care of business. Bill Bruton, fleet-footed outfielder for the Milwaukee Braves. And Harry Chee was a catcher for the Cubs. And pitcher Arnold Parker. On the 52, Bill McCann was on his way down. Most of the players in the Western League were on their way up, unlike some leagues. You know, I attend a lot of AAA games back east of the Montana Red Sox, and there's Many people on their way up and many people on their way down. Bill McCann was one of the few people who was on his way down. He had a decent career with the A's. He was 4-5 with the Bulldogs that year. Denver Bears beat Omaha for the championship, the two big cities. Ken Landenberg, you see his name on a lot of these slides. He, to me, was just a dominant Western League player. He scared me. He was a big old left-handed first baseman, redheaded, and he just put the fear in the opposing pitchers all the time. There's Billy Shan still here, Wally was still here. This is at least the second time Earl Weaver's here. I'll talk more about that one. A couple of pitchers, Connie Johnson and Barney Schultz. So there's the 1948 card when McCann was a pitcher for the Philadelphia A's. Kurt Roberts had a pretty long career with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I have gotten precious few foul balls at a game. I attended many games at Bear Stadium with my cousin Roger. And one time we figured out that almost every day somebody would hit one down the left field line into the stands, and there was nobody there. When we went down there, we could get a foul ball. Roger got a ball off the bat of Tommy Aaron, Hank Aaron's brother, and I got Kurt Roberts. Connie Johnson had a decent career. So on to 1953. A couple of great players played for Pueblo that year. Jim Gentile came up, led the league with 34 homers, crushed the ball. Maury Wills had an 18-game stint and stole 8 bases. Carl Spooner struck out 198 guys in 153 innings, so that's 11.6 per 9 innings. And this is 1953. They called him up in 1954. He was injured. He got a start on September 24th against the New York Giants the day after they clinched the 1954 pennant. He struck out 15 guys in his major league debut, which broke the record of 13. In his second appearance, he struck out 12 guys. So he struck out 27 guys in his first 2 games. That's almost better than anybody ever did, let alone their first 2 games. Bob Phillips actually struck out 28 in 2 games that they weren't in his career. Unfortunately, the walls came tumbling down the following year. In a spring training game, Johnny Padres was supposed to pitch the first 3 innings of this exhibition game, and Spooner was supposed to pitch 4 through 6. Well, Padres got in trouble after 2 innings, and Spooner had to come in the 3rd, and he didn't adequately warm up. He broke off a curveball to Jim Rivera and felt something pull in his arm, and that was pretty much it. He struggled. I think he ended up 8-6 on the season. After Game 5, the Dodgers were ahead 3 games to 2 in the 1955 World Series. Game 6 is at Yankee Stadium, and Walter Austin handed him the ball for a chance at World Series immortality, and he didn't get out of the first inning. Jim Gilliam didn't help him. He failed to cover second base on a steal, and he did not field a ground ball clean that should have been a double play. Scouring got a home run. It was 5-0. He was out of the game, and it was over. But then we had Johnny Padres for Game 7, so it all worked out. Bruce Edwards played with Des Moines that year. Bruce Edwards was a Dodger catcher for many years. He ended up catching those games when Turk Clown hit Roy Campanella. He was the backup catcher. He played 2 of the 3 playoff games, including the Bobby Thompson game. There's a lot of people think that if Campanella would have been there, he would have been able to get Don Newton through that last inning, and they wouldn't have to go to an off-breaker. Jim Landis played for Colorado Springs. Big star of the 1959 Go-Go White Sox. Kurt Roberts again. Earl Weaver again. I'll say that for the next slide. And a couple of pitchers that had decent years. There's Jim Gentile. in 1961. Maury Wills topped boycotted Maury Wills. We had such an up and down minor league career. His first card was actually a Fleer card in 1963, and there's Carl Spooner's 55 card. There's Bruce Edwards in the Dodger uniform, and Jim Landis in his first card, 57 Tops card. And there's the two pitchers that have decent years. So now at 54, we get a new manager, Willie Holt. Attendance is holding steady at about 1,000 per game, a larger percentage of the average actually. We want to beat Denver. This is Denver's last year in the Western League as a Class A team. Jim Gentile had another bang-up year, 26 homers. Sparky Anderson plays second base for the Pueblo Dodgers, and he holds the distinction of the most games played by any player in a season who just had one season in the major leagues. He played 152 games in the 1959 season for the Phillies, who had miserably, so that was it. That was the end of his career. But he had a very decent year in Pueblo. He was not the all-star second baseman in the league. The all-star second baseman was this man down the bottom line that he put it on, Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver didn't have nearly as good a year, but and he didn't even get a cup of coffee, by the way. He did not play in the major leagues at all. Neither did Bobby Winkles. Has had good managerial careers. Wills had a much better year. Roger Craig on the bottom line, 6-2 and even. Had a big game in the 1955 World Series. Bill White is, borderline Hall of Famer in my mind. Played for Sioux City that year. There's Sparky's 59 card, Roger Craig, Bill White. Now this really gets fun. In 1955, of course, I'm into a full bore. Wichita won the league championship. We had a guy named Pedro Almendares who was just fantastic. Fast, hit well, 22 homers, 91. And a friend of mine, Rick, wrote that this was his favorite Pueblo Dodger of all time. Don Demeter, who went on to play with the big team. Clem Moore had a tremendous year, 194 hits. And Johnny Roseboro, 32 games. Had a big career, of course, with the LA Dodgers. And this was my dad's favorite player because he would come to the nightclub where my dad played after every home game and sit there and talk to my dad all night long, supposed to have good breaks. And this previous year had been in Wisconsin somewhere, and apparently he felt that Pueblo treated him much more fairly racially. And my dad got to know him pretty well. The next guy is Kenneth Worley, who was the catcher for 2 years this year, had 111 games. He was my Uncle Joe Stuka's best man. No idea how the connection happened, but they got married. My own half, Artsberger, my uncle got married in Wichita, and he was the best man. So Willie Kirkland was probably my favorite player in the Western League. He just killed it. He had 40 home runs. He was fast. And I thought this was going to be the third Willie after Willie Mays and Willie McCovey. He did make it up there, and it was actually one game where all three of them got a home run in the same game. But he didn't pan out like the other two. He spent most of his career in Japan, but he was absolutely tremendous in the Western League. Interestingly, you see Dick Hall on both the hitter and the pitcher lines. He pitched and hit both. I think he was 12-5 on the mound, and he got below 300. He tried to do both for a long time, and then they decided he couldn't hit, so he focused on pitching. He was a cerebral guy, went to Swarthmore College in Philadelphia area, and a lot of people say he was the smartest guy in baseball. Anyway, he focused on his pitching after he got to the major leagues. So there's Gabby. By the way, we're coming up on the anniversary of when Juan Marichal hit him over the head. There's two guys in there, Walter Ralston who were considered among the toughest guys in baseball, the guy you definitely would not want to pick a fight with. Roseboro and Walter Olson. Here's Willie Kirkland, and this is my favorite card, the baby blue background from the 1958 Topps. And here's Dick Hall, listed as a pitcher. 1956, Wills has an even better year. Kenneth Worley has a battle over 300. So remember, we're down to a 16 lead again here. But look who's here on this hitter line. That's Dick Stewart. So this is the year he hit the 66 homers. He stuck around. He played at 57 for Lincoln too, and he got up to the big leagues fairly quickly. Hit a ton of homers. Eventually ended up with the Red Sox, and his fielding was so poor, he got the nickname Dr. Strangeglove, which is pretty clever. But I saw him on July 27th, Sunday, before the game, get in an egg tossing contest. This guy right here, Ron Wells, was his partner, and they won it. Ron Wells and Dick Stewart won this egg tossing contest, which you wouldn't think that somebody nicknamed Dr. Strangeglove could win an egg tossing contest. He's got pretty soft hands, but he did. And there you see Larry Sherry here. Larry Sherry went on to be the MVP of the 1959 World Series with 2 wins and 2 saves. He was a strong man. He actually stuck around Pueblo quite a bit. Didn't actually live here for a long period of time, but he really enjoyed Pueblo. So there's Eddie Daniels. Let's say about that. That's not too good about him. So this is the last year of the Pueblo Dodgers. Pretty dismal. Attendance is 528, 7th of 8 in the playoffs. Dick Trzeski was the big name. He played shortstop and played several games for the LA Dodgers and was in the World Series. Dick Stewart again is there. He didn't get anywhere near 66. So, by the way, Stewart accomplished that in 141 games, not even 154 games. He had 66 homers. Ken Landenberger is with Sioux City Sioux. He originally was with the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. He came back as the Sioux City Sioux manager and tormented me all over again for 2 years. There's Trzeski, Ken Hamlin. So Dave Stenhouse, 1958. I was in Old Timers, and they had the Pueblo Bruins. Well, this is 57, still the Pueblo Dodgers. Following year, the Pueblo Bruins got a clinic for the Old Timers. And I got a lot of quality time with Dave Stenhouse, and he showed me how throwing the knuckleball, put like a crevice in his right arm, and he was encouraging me not to throw a knuckleball, which I kind of liked to do, but I took his advice. He eventually had a son by the name of Mike Stenhouse, who was born in Pueblo. Not too many major leaguers born in Pueblo. I think there's 4 of them. 3 of them you've probably never heard of. But Mike Stenhouse was born in Pueblo in 1958. He went to Harvard, had a tremendous baseball career at Harvard, and had a 4-year career in the major leagues. But I felt like I knew Dave from that clinic. I spent probably 2 hours with him. There were like 3 of us is all that showed up that day for the clinic. So here you see he was 16 and 8 that year with Pueblo. Emil Singial that was one of my favorite names. He had a tremendous year with the Bruins. I don't understand why the Des Moines Bruins stayed as the Des Moines Bruins instead of the Des Moines Dodgers. I never did understand that. I still don't. George Altman was an all-star. He had a tremendous year. Went right up to the big leagues. He is the first guy to get 2 home runs in the same game off of Sandy Koufax. played 2 all-star games, and he got a winning home run in all those games. He had a great career over in Japan, but that's where he really excelled. George Allman and Lou Jackson, the third guy down here, are the 2, they came as a package. They were up at Fort Collins, and I guess O'Neill Hahn signed them as a package deal. Lou Jackson was blazing fast. I think the fastest guy I ever played here. He hit a ball down the right field line, and you look up expecting to see him between first and second, and he coasted into third. He got a cup of coffee, didn't do too much with the Cubs. Throws here in Pueblo. Billy Williams got a stump. This is the Billy Williams, the one who was the Hall of Famer, the one who broke Stan Williams' National League record in consecutive games, ended up playing over 1,100 consecutive games. He got a stomach ailment after 21 games. He batted .250, 20 hits and 80 at-bats. And to take the pressure off him, they just sent him down to Class B. He finished the year at Class B. It wasn't long before he was up because of squeeze win, Billy Williams. Here's the aforementioned Al Jackson. Takes a good pitcher, loses 20 games. Gary Peters was a rookie of the year. Last time I was there. There's George LeBeau. Fairly had a long career with the Dodgers. On those good pitch and all hit teams. There's Billy Sherman Jones, Gary Peters. So I thought I would choose a Mount Rushmore. First of the Western League, these are the 4 best players. So I'll start with Tom Brady. Oh, excuse me. Bobby Shantz. Tom Brady's not here, Mount Rushmore. Willie Kirkland, Nellie Fox, ended up in the MVP, Hall of Fame, made the All-Star team like 15 times. MVP 1959, big chalk is cheap, big fat and of course Big Stewart. So that's the Western League Mount Rushmore. And then for people who play in Pueblo, Joe Brown's at the top, Jim Gentile, Roy Face, 23-9, and Maury Rose. So, my first major league game that I saw in person, well, we saw a couple of exhibition games in April of '61 up in Denver between the Pirates and the Phillies. Pirates fresh from their 1960 World Series victory over the Yankees, and they stopped in Denver on their way back to Pennsylvania in April. It was kind of cold, but we got to see 2 games, Barrow Committee, and Mazeroski, and so forth. The first real game I saw was in August of '62. Cincinnati was the defending National League champions, and the Dodgers were having a tremendous year, notwithstanding Sandy Koufax to an injury that almost cost him his index finger on his pitching hand. He was on his way, I was claiming he was on his way to 400 strikeouts that year. So he left the Cy Young Award for Don Drysdale. Joey J pitched for the Reds that day, and he was a Dodger killer. It was Joey J pitched the entire game, 178 pitches. And the Dodgers beat the Reds 13 innings, 2-1. Johnny Roseboro, my dad was with us. Johnny Roseboro got the winning hit. It was 1-0 going in the bottom of the ninth. Duke Snyder tied it up, and they won it in the 13th. Pretty. After going a whole life of no major league games, I kind of outdid myself in the first 2 here. The second game was 2 years later. We were back in New York for the World's Fair. The San Francisco Giants with Willie Mays came to town to play the lowly New York Mets. They adored Willie Mays still in New York City. My dad did not come on this trip because it was 3 weeks long and he would have to find somebody to take his job. So it was the 3 of us. My mom agreed to come. We got tickets up on the 3rd deck. It was madhouse for Willie Mays. I had a little brownie camera. And I talked my mom into letting me go down the field level to take some pictures of Willie Mays. And one at bat and a walk-off hit, but I talked to him to let me stay down there. Watched him bat 2 or 3 times. I come back up to the upper deck, there is smoke coming out of her ears. It is livid. My brother's nowhere to be seen. About the 8th inning, my brother talked to him to let him go down and buy a New York Mets batting helmet. Fancy blues, plastic black helmet, batting helmet. All the escalators are going down because it's so late in the game, you can't find the stairway, so he runs up the down escalator, gets near the top, and the teeth, of course, chew up his knee, blood pouring everywhere. Gotta go get it stitched up, but it's done. My mom would have a chance to find me no matter what. So she had to put him in an ambulance, and he went to Flushing Hospital. We were Flushing from Scarsdale, you know, because we had no idea. You know, there was threats of Puerto Rican rats. My mom was scared to death. The guys told her, just go out there on Roosevelt Boulevard and flag down the cab and tell me why to go to Flushing Hospital. So we did. It wasn't that far away. We walked in this siding, and there was a little building, and I looked down the hallway, and I see this form on a stretcher with a blue batting helmet. And I go up there, and my brother, here all by himself, he's 11 years old. Couldn't be the biggest smile on his face ever. You know, nobody's with him. And he's just happy as a clam. He got that batting helmet. They got intended him.
The helmet. It was the
There was
helmet.
a girl that got him for line drive. And James was taking care of her. Anyway, we got him stitched up pretty quickly. We're on our way back. The lights are still on at Shea Stadium. Let's get off and see, watch the end of the game. It's probably only like the 11th or 12th. Not a chance. Burned all my credit. And this other one, maybe you guys can get a copy of these slides. This link here is a YouTube slide of the 1960 World Series. And this just happened to come on my. So the 1960 World Series was between the Pirates and the Yankees. And it's famous because the Yankees demolished them in 3 games. But the Pirates won about the rest of the home was a lot of the night. So this is a telecast of like the last 3 or 4 innings. Coincidentally, the pitchers are Bobby Shantz and Roy Face, 2 of the Mount Rushmores, and they are both alive. Bobby Shantz is going to be 99 September 25th, and Roy Face as well, and was 92. So I turned that on, I couldn't believe it. It was like Western America come back to read. So anyway, there are too many questions. Anybody have any comments? Christy?
Do you mind if I say it on the words?
Say again?
Do you mind if I just say something?
Sure, hold on, please.
Can I use my?
Yeah. This is Jim Devin's son. Played together.
I know he did all know before the Christy Devitt, my dad. Colorado has been so good to me. Well, it's been so. I live in Colorado Springs right now. But without the Pueblo Dodgers, I would not be living in Colorado. My dad moved out here, loved Colorado. He loved the mornings and the evenings, and 23 years in baseball. And I remember so many interesting things about, later in life after I grew up. I was only 3 when he was managing me. But to go up to Los Angeles and to go to a Dodgers game, I only saw one with my dad. It was when he was, I was 11. We went to Disneyland that day. That evening, we went to the baseball game. We did not have tickets. He said, I wonder if you could call the general manager down. And he came down, and he said, come on in, Jim. I'm going to give you the best seats in the house. And he did. Right behind home plate on the rail. Sandy Koufax pitched a no-hitter. And what I remember about that is that at the end of the game, after the final out, they had these cushions, and you could buy these cushions to sit on, and it was like a million frisbees flying through the air. And I got to go down to the field. I got to meet Walter Alston, which you talked about. Airway Base, we went out to dinner with him a few times, which you talked about. On your Rushmore. My dad's here too, I think. So I played autograph baseball with the Dodgers. I mean, it is great. Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax. I get all these great players. So that was a treasure. I remember I was 11, so I take the ball up to Greeley. That's where I went to school at the University of Northern Colorado. And my roommate, I took the ball with me. My roommate had this black Labrador. You did. You got that ball? Every single name disappeared. But I tell you, baseball was my life. And I want to just mention that I know a lot of you here are coaches. You have coached in the past. You made your contributions to baseball and other sports here in Pueblo. It was a great place for me to grow up. I went to Morton Elementary. I went to Reed Middle School and Centennial High School. Anybody else go to Centennial in here, by the way? Eventually, I was fortunate enough to become the principal at Centennial High School for a couple of years. And I just owe this community so much. You talked about old timers. You talked about getting that old timers t-shirt. Some of you can identify with that. And it didn't matter how big the pants were. You had these fancy big britches, and I don't care if you weigh 25 pounds, you're going to wear those extra large pants. Okay, go through the junior Pee-wee, juniors, and then American Legion baseball, and then going through the semi-pro baseball program. And I just owe this community so much. I've got so many great friends. And suddenly, you just look back on your past, and you just reflect, you know, time has really gone by quickly. It has really gone by quickly. I don't know if you're still having your high school reunions or not, but it's been several decades since I was in high school. But I really appreciate the research that was done for this program. I didn't know what you were talking about as far as the players and all the history associated with professional sports. But this had a great minor league program, and this was a great venue to grow up in, and I'm very proud of this community. And thank you very much.
Good.
I could see it on everybody's faces as they were listening to all of that information. It was really great. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming this evening. We'll see you next month.